In this video, we're going to talk about some general strategies that apply to the listening test. It's a good idea for you to get to know the overall format of the test so that you know what to expect. The first thing you need to know about the listening test is that all the questions are multiple choice, and there will always be 4 options in each question. The great thing about multiple choice is that if you're not sure what the right answer is, you can guess. There's nothing wrong with guessing, and you certainly won't lose any points for trying. So make sure that you answer every question and never leave any blank. The thing about guessing, though, is sometimes if you just spend a little extra time thinking about a hard question, you'll be able to eliminate 1 or more wrong answers. In other words, even if you don't know what the right answer is, you'll be able to reduce the number of possible choices. Let me put it this way. If you guess without thinking, you only have a 1 in 4, or 25% chance of being right. If you can eliminate 1 option, then you have a 33% chance of being right. And if you eliminate 2, then you're up to a 50% chance of being right. Let's look at an example. On the listening test, what is one thing you should always do? Even if we know nothing about the listening test, we can still get rid of a couple options. You wouldn't speak during a listening test, so it can't be B. And you wouldn't write on a listening test either, so it wouldn't be C. Okay, now we've narrowed down our choices to 2 options. Even if you're still unsure of the correct answer, your chances of getting it right are now much higher. Therefore, eliminating incorrect answers can really help focus your choices on the listening test. The correct answer, by the way, is A. As I mentioned earlier, you should try to answer every question. Okay, let's talk more about the format of the test, so that you won't be confused by the way the questions are presented to you. Remember that in listening parts 1, 2, and 3, each question will be presented on its own screen, and you'll hear the question itself, you won't read it. In parts 4, 5, and 6, all the questions are presented on the same screen for each part, and the questions themselves are presented as text. Regardless, you'll have a limited amount of time for each listening part, so keep an eye on the timer. If you happen to finish a question and still have a bit of time left, you could click Next and proceed to the next screen, but I wouldn't recommend it. You won't be able to carry over the extra time, so the only benefit to clicking Next before your time is up is that your listening test will end a bit sooner. Instead, it's a great idea to use that extra time to double-check your answer. You'll be given notepaper and a pen during the listening test, and you should really consider taking notes during the audio for each part. Remember that you'll hear the audio only once, and note-taking can really help organize your thoughts and help you remember the key ideas of each conversation or report. You can also use the short statement before the audio of each listening part to give you some additional context as you're listening. For more in-depth discussion on note-taking strategies, see our videos on note-taking for the listening test. Some of the later parts of the listening test, particularly parts 5 and 6, can get a bit more difficult, and you may have some trouble with the vocabulary for these parts. Don't panic. Don't focus on the words you don't know. That'll just waste valuable time. Instead, focus on the words you do know. You can still have a good grasp of the general situation, even if you don't understand every single word. You should be aware that the questions on the listening test rarely use the same exact wording as you heard in the audio. Instead, they'll use paraphrases. In other words, they'll use different words with the same meaning. Some questions might also require you to identify summaries of the information you heard in the conversation or report. Summaries are when you describe a longer idea using fewer words. You can learn about these concepts in more detail in the videos about paraphrases and summaries for the listening test. And lastly, it's a good idea to be aware of the different question types. Of course, we've already discussed that all the questions on the listening test are multiple choice. But these questions can still test you for different types of information. So, to quickly summarize, these are some general strategies to remember when taking the listening test. Guess wisely. Try to eliminate incorrect answers in each multiple choice question. Answer every question, even if you're not sure of the answer. Use extra time to double-check your answer to each question. Take notes. This can really help you out. Don't worry about difficult vocabulary. And finally, you should be able to recognize paraphrases and summaries. The next video will discuss the different question types on the listening test.